Chapter 8. Brett had cheated on his girlfriend, then broke up with her that same night. Although he was the one who made the mistake, May was the one who paid for it. The couple met outside of the schoolhouse on Monday morning. May was nervous to see what was going to happen when they met. Last time they had seen each other, Brett had surprised her with a kiss in the park. Were they going to be together now? Was he going to pretend like it hadn't happened? And continue to flirt with Hannah right in front of her the entire school day? Those seemed like the only two possibilities. They were so far on opposite ends of the spectrum that May found herself wishing there was some kind of middle ground where she could hedge her bet. If May was nervous, Brett was the equivalent of a chihuahua who broke into the coffee and pixie sticks. He felt like he was vibrating, his nerves simulating chills. He was sick to his stomach. Breaking up with Hannah had been the right choice. He had cheated on her, even if it was just one quick kiss. Brett knew she deserved better. He also knew he wanted May, so in a way, he felt like he deserved better too. A firm belief that he had done the right thing was unshakably lodged in his brain. But if that was true, why was his body rejecting the end of the relationship like a bad kidney? Brett reached out his hand and firmly grasped May's, interlacing their fingers. She looked at him with shocked delight. He kissed her gently. Yes, they were together. Good thing, too, they were going to need each other to face the rest of the school. Hand in hand, the couple walked up the cracked cement to the school's big red doors. As they opened the door, the familiar wall of voices that flooded the entryway before school entered their ears. Suddenly, the droning got quieter. Just as many voices were speaking, but everybody had adopted a muffled whisper. It felt like every set of eyes in the school, from kindergarten to high school seniors, all locked on the newly minted couple. Brett gave May a gentle tug on their interconnected palms and led her to the classroom. In the entryway, conversations had quieted as they entered. In the classroom, conversations stopped on a dime. It was like someone had been playing a record of ambient vocals, then suddenly lifted the needle. Silence in a high school classroom. That was something neither Brett nor May had ever experienced. Hannah was already there, surrounded by a familiar group of seniors, juniors, and one sophomore. They all shot looks at Brett. The social firing squad continued their silent assault until finally the bell rang and Miss Melton walked in the room. Brett gave a quick hug to May, and the two lovers split across the classroom to their respective desks. May trekked to into the empty desert of the back of the class. Taking her assigned seat felt oddly comforting. She'd only been in St. Farr for a week, and her social life grew and crumbled at her feet during that time. Now she got to sit at the familiar desk and focus on schoolwork, something she actually enjoyed. Brett's walk to his desk felt like he was advancing into enemy territory. Only last week, this was the spot where everyone would gather and listen to his takes on anything and everything. Hannah would watch him work with loving wonder, catching his eyes throughout the day just to flash a smile or pass a note reminding him how much she cared. Now she refused to look at him. He wasn't in the clear, though. Their surrounding classmates were doing more than enough staring to cover her lack of interest. May worked hard to focus on her work, occasionally looking up to try to catch Brett's eye. No luck. Brett spent the entire day listening intently to Miss Melton's lectures and avoiding eye contact from every human in the room. He did, however, spend a lot of time making eye contact with the paper Ferris that marked the location of St. Farr on a map of Texas prominently displayed on one wall. He felt like maybe the situation wasn't all that bad. At least he wasn't shot and killed by Bucky Jones, although he wondered if he might prefer that. Eventually, school ended and both May and Brett ran for the exit, meeting at the doorway and leaving without saying a word. They had known that their relationship was born out of infidelity, but they hadn't anticipated that the entire school would know and maroon them on an island of hatred. Maybe that was a bit too extreme, but on the first day as a couple, that's how they felt. As they left the schoolhouse, Brett let out a loud sigh. May noticed and gave his hand a light squeeze. Brett couldn't let his poor choice ruin their senior year. This was supposed to be the best year of their lives, at least the best one up until this point. He stopped walking and turned to face May. Do you want to go on a date? When? Now. Where would we even go? Does it matter? It didn't matter. May knew it. Spending time together had been the highlight of her time in St. Farr. so they could do anything as long as she got more FaceTime with Brett. Sure, take me out, Brett. Brett took off, lightly jogging toward the town square, pulling May behind him. She giggled and started taking large strides herself, catching up to Brett and running alongside her new boyfriend. They ran all the way to Harvey's, then Brett stopped, held the door to the cafe, and ushered her inside. Harvey's smelled lightly of grease and fish. The old-timers had all finished their usual lunches, tuna melt with a side of fries, and now they sat grumpily at the bar, daring someone to enter the small cafe. Brett didn't have time for a verbal exchange with the wrinkly panel of angry old men. He had a date. He squeezed between the two of the old-timers and ordered a grasshopper shake. Harvey nodded and got to work. Well, I ain't seen your pretty face around here before. I was here last week, May replied kindly. I remember seeing your pretty face. The old-timers were used to verbally sparring over every potential customer Harvey had. No one ever said anything nice to them. Not that they deserved it. A second old-timer spoke up. Pretty face? He's the worst one in the group, he said, gesturing to the rest of the bar-sitters. You all look very distinguished. You're the perfect complement for such a lovely establishment. It sounded like an insult, but she had said it with such sincerity that the old-timers didn't know if she was talking up Harvey's or talking down their elderly wolf pack. One grasshopper shake, Harvey interrupted the maybe nice, maybe rude conversation between May and the old-timer, holding out a white styrofoam cup and 2 plastic spoons. Thanks, Harvey, Brett replied, taking them from his hand. Brett turned around and started to walk out of the restaurant. Wait, where are you going? The old-timers called after him. May have been able to charm them, but Brett was still dealing with these pruny old goats his entire life. He was certain that they were simply going to channel the abuse that they would have thrown at May in his direction instead. Y'all can eat inside, plenty of tables, the old-timer said, giving an exaggerated wave at the 2 unoccupied tables that acted as a moat between the old men and the front door. Oh, Brett, let's stay, May said, shifting her eyes from the old-timers to Brett. That might be a good idea, Brett thought. No one aside from the old-timers and Harvey himself hung around inside the cafe. Then they would be able to avoid disapproving looks and nasty comments from their classmates. A sanctuary from the outside world. Brett never would have thought any location within 100 feet of the old-timers could have met that description. He nodded. Okay, let's do it. The couple sat down at one of the small, rarely used tables, wiping dust off the surface. The old-timers, satisfied that they had been kind to the only person who was kind to them, turned back toward the bar and started discussing the Astros. Grasshopper, huh? May asked jokingly. You are so joining those old-timers when you grow up. What? I can't like mint ice cream? Brett replied, gathering a huge scoop from the styrofoam cup with his plastic spoon. He put the entire thing in his open maw, small amounts, not quite making the journey past his lips on either side of his mouth. You can like whatever you like, May said with a soft smile. Brett felt calm for the first time that day. Moments later, the roof of his mouth had reached its threshold of frozen dairy, and a sharp pain shot through his brain. He yelped in pain and immediately put his hands on his head. May laughed. I know you like mint, but take your time. I'm not going anywhere. Brett had never heard something so sweet in his entire life.